They said she was too sensitive, too soft, too emotional. But what they didn't see, what they couldn't understand, was that those very traits they mocked were her hidden superpowers. While others chased quick wins and loud victories, she played the long game. She watched, she listened, she read the room like a seasoned strategist, and when the time was right, she rose. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with strength rooted in self-awareness, calm and clarity. This is the story of the emotionally intelligent woman, the woman who doesn't react, she responds. Who doesn't crumble under pressure but grows wiser through it. The woman who understands herself deeply and because of that can handle the world around her with grace and precision. Emotional intelligence is not about being weak, it's about being smart with your feelings and strategic with your energy. In a world that rewards aggressiveness and noise, emotionally intelligent women move in silence, but they leave impact in their wake. They know how to lead without dominating, how to love without losing themselves, and how to face setbacks without collapsing. They don't need validation because they understand their worth. They don't beg for respect, they earn it simply by being who they are. This isn't about just being nice or always smiling. Emotional intelligence is about mastering the self, controlling the inner storms so you can move through outer chaos with dignity. It's about being able to say no without guilt, walk away from toxicity without looking back, and rise after failure without making a scene. Emotionally intelligent women aren't loud, they are focused. They don't seek to be understood by everyone. They seek to understand themselves. And over time, this power compounds. They build better relationships, they attract better people, they make clearer decisions, they protect their peace. And most of all, they win, not because they try to dominate the game, but because they learned how to master themselves within it. So if you've ever felt like your calmness was a weakness, if you've ever been told to be more tough, more cutthroat, more like the rest, pause. Because this story is for you. The one who holds it together when everyone else falls apart. The one who thinks before she speaks. The one who chooses growth over drama, presence over attention, and inner peace over external approval. Let them doubt you. Let them underestimate you. Because in the end, the woman who knows her emotions always knows her power. She understands before she reacts. In a world that constantly pressures people to act quickly, emotionally intelligent women do something radical. They pause. They don't rush to speak. They don't jump to conclusions. And they certainly don't let someone else's chaos dictate their own emotions. They understand the power of that pause. Because in that pause, they reflect. In that pause, they evaluate. In that pause, they choose to respond, not react. This is one of the most powerful habits emotionally intelligent women develop early on. While others may fire back with anger, sarcasm, or defensiveness, she steps back and observes. What is the other person really trying to say? Where is this emotion coming from? Is this battle even worth fighting? These are the questions she asks herself, not out loud, not dramatically, but silently and strategically. She understands that reacting emotionally in the heat of the moment often leads to regret, and she has no time for regrets. She'd rather take a moment of silence than say something that wounds, burns bridges, or brings unnecessary conflict. Her intelligence isn't just academic or professional, it's emotional. She sees beneath people's words and watches their patterns. She notices tone, she senses shifts. She listens not just to the words but to the silences between them. Emotionally intelligent women develop this skill through experience, through being misunderstood, dismissed, or pushed too far. But instead of becoming bitter, they become better. They start to train their emotions like a muscle, knowing that the strongest person in the room is often the one who doesn't need to prove it. She doesn't win arguments to feed her ego. She wins by staying grounded, by refusing to get pulled into emotional traps. You'll rarely see her explode in anger. That doesn't mean she doesn't feel deeply. On the contrary, she feels everything. But she has learned to separate her emotions from her actions. She knows how to process her feelings internally, how to write them out, meditate through them, talk them over with someone wise, not with the world watching, but in her own private space. She's mastered the art of asking herself, what outcome do I want from this situation? Instead of, how do I make this person pay for how they made me feel? That single shift turns confrontations into opportunities, conflicts into conversations, and breakdowns into breakthroughs. This is not weakness. This is strength disguised as stillness. She's not passive. She's powerful in her patience. And because of that, she sees more clearly, acts more wisely, and navigates life with a maturity that sets her apart. When storms rise, others panic. She prepares. When people provoke, others lash out. She observes. In the end, she wins not because she's louder, but because she's wiser. And wisdom, emotional wisdom, is a currency that never loses value. she knows when to let go and walk away. An emotionally intelligent woman doesn't cling to what no longer serves her. She's not afraid of walking away from people, places, or patterns that drain her spirit. She doesn't hold on to pain just to prove a point. She doesn't chase after those who've made it clear they don't value her presence. She's done begging, she's done explaining, she's done shrinking. Because she knows something most people take a lifetime to learn. Not everything lost is a loss. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your soul is to release what's weighing you down, even if it once felt like everything. She understands that holding on to what hurts will only block what heals. And so she lets go, gracefully, silently, powerfully. Letting go is not weakness. It's wisdom, it's courage, it's growth. An emotionally intelligent woman can look at someone she once loved and still walk away, not because she stopped caring, but because she started caring about herself more. She understands that love isn't supposed to destroy you, support isn't supposed to come with strings, and peace isn't supposed to feel like a war. She listens to her inner voice. If her body feels tense around someone, if her heart feels unsettled in a room, if her intuition whispers that something is off, she pays attention. She doesn't wait for things to become unbearable before she moves. She's not waiting for closure, not holding out for change that's never coming. She has learned that protecting her peace is not selfish, it's necessary. And when she walks away, she doesn't need to announce it to the world. She doesn't leave with bitterness or drama. She doesn't seek revenge. She simply disconnects emotionally, mentally, energetically. And that silence, that absence, is louder than any argument she could have had. It speaks volumes. This is what sets her apart. Most people are afraid to be alone. But she embraces solitude because she knows it's where she grows. She doesn't settle out of fear. She doesn't return out of desperation. She believes in her worth deeply enough to know that anything costing her peace is too expensive. And here's the truth. Walking away doesn't mean she's heartless. It means she has heart for herself. It means she's finally honoring her boundaries, respecting her time, and protecting her energy. It means she's not here to fix people who don't want to be fixed. She's not here to carry the emotional weight of everyone else. She's here to build a life that feels right, not one that just looks right from the outside. And if that means walking alone for a while, so be it. She'd rather walk alone in truth than stay surrounded by lies. Because in the end, it's not about who stayed the longest. It's about who brought peace, who nurtured growth, who respected her soul. And when those things are missing, she knows it's time to go. And when she lets go, she doesn't just free herself. She creates space for the life she truly deserves. She turns pain into power. Every emotionally intelligent woman has been through something that could have broken her. Betrayal, loss, rejection, disappointment. She's cried behind closed doors. She's carried the weight of silence when no one was watching. But instead of letting that pain destroy her, she used it. She turned it into her teacher. She turned it into her power. You see, the emotionally intelligent woman doesn't run from pain. She sits with it. She doesn't distract herself endlessly just to avoid feeling. She confronts the ache. She doesn't pretend she's fine when she's not. But she also doesn't allow pain to define her. She learns from it. She studies her scars like a scholar. She knows that every wound carries a lesson, and every lesson adds another layer to her strength. Pain made her more compassionate. She now sees hurt in others because she's felt it in herself. It made her more aware. Now, she picks up on energies faster, senses red flags earlier, and knows what alignment feels like. Pain taught her not just to survive, but to evolve. While others suppress, distract, or numb themselves, she goes through the fire. And that's why she comes out forged, not fragile. Her growth wasn't gifted to her. It was earned in the quiet moments where she chose healing over hiding, forgiveness over bitterness, growth over blame. She doesn't let pain make her bitter. She lets it make her wiser. She doesn't let disappointment close her heart. She lets it refine her standards. And she doesn't stay stuck in stories of victimhood. She rises with a new story, one where she is the author, not the wounded character waiting to be rescued. Emotionally intelligent women understand something most overlook. Pain is a signal, not a sentence. It's a sign to go inward, to reevaluate, to realign. And that's what she does. Not loudly, not publicly, but deeply. She does the inner woe. She faces the ugly truths. She rebuilds herself brick by brick with patience, with awareness, with fierce grace. And when she reemerges, she doesn't come back as the same woman. She's stronger, calmer, clearer. She's not easily shaken, not easily manipulated, not easily fooled by sweet words without matching actions. Pain taught her discernment. Pain gave her depth. Now, her power doesn't come from being untouched by life. It comes from being transformed by it. She wears her experiences like armor, not baggage. And that's what makes her unstoppable. She doesn't walk into rooms demanding attention. She walks in quietly. But her presence speaks of survival, of healing, of resilience. She doesn't need to explain where she's been. Her peace says it all. Because the emotionally intelligent woman knows pain is inevitable. But suffering? That's optional. And she's chosen something higher. She's chosen to grow. She leads with empathy, not ego. In a world where ego often drives decisions, emotionally intelligent women lead from a different place. They lead from the heart. Not because they're weak, but because they're wise. They've seen what ego does. It divides, competes, and isolates. But empathy connects. It understands. It unites. And that's where her true influence lies. She doesn't need to prove she's better than anyone. She doesn't waste time in petty competition. She knows that real leadership isn't about domination. It's about elevation. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about listening deeply, seeing clearly, and responding consciously. This woman is not just emotionally intelligent for herself. She uses it to uplift those around her. Whether she's in a relationship, leading a team, raising a child, or simply moving through her day, she pays attention to people's emotions. She picks up on tension others ignore. She hears the unspoken words. She notices the sadness behind the smile. And instead of judging, she leans in with empathy. That doesn't mean she's a pushover. Empathy isn't about allowing people to walk all over you. It's about understanding people without abandoning yourself. And that's her gift. She can connect with others while still protecting her own energy. She has emotional boundaries, but she also has an open heart. She can forgive, but she doesn't forget her worth. She can be kind, but she's not naive. She sees the good in people, but she also sees the truth. And that balance of heart and head, of empathy and discernment, that's where her leadership shines. Her empathy makes people feel safe. In her presence, people feel seen. They feel heard. And that's rare. In a world that rushes to respond, she takes time to understand. In a society that teaches us to win at all costs, she chooses connection over control. Even in conflict, she doesn't let ego take over. She doesn't argue to be right. She speaks to find resolution. She knows the damage a harsh word can cause, so she chooses her words with care. She knows that emotional control isn't just about calming herself. It's about not passing on pain to others. She's not perfect. She still has moments where frustration flares or patience wears thin. But even then she checks herself. She returns to self-awareness. She reflects. She apologizes when she's wrong. And that humility, that's what makes her powerful. Because emotional intelligence isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally mature. It's about being strong enough to lead with softness, wise enough to guide with compassion, and brave enough to care, even when it's not popular. In every room she enters, she brings a calming energy, a quiet strength, a presence that doesn't scream but speaks volumes. And people remember how she made them feel. They remember her not because she demanded power, but because she embodied it, with grace. She leads not for control, but for connection. And that's why, in the end, she always wins. She builds, she doesn't break. There's something powerful about a woman who knows how to build. Build herself, build others, build a life that reflects her inner values, not just outer validation. An emotionally intelligent woman is a builder. She doesn't sit around blaming circumstances, people, or fate. She uses what she has, no matter how little, and she creates something meaningful. She doesn't waste her time destroying others to feel strong. She rises without pulling others down. She doesn't believe in competition for the sake of ego. She believes in collaboration, in growth, in progress. She knows her lane, and she stays in it, not to isolate, but to focus. She's not here to compare, she's here to construct. When life breaks her, because yes, it has, she doesn't stay broken. She gives herself time to heal, but then she gets up and starts again. She takes the shattered pieces of her past and turns them into foundation stones. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes redirection. Every failure becomes fuel. That's the difference. Some people sit in ruins and weep. She rebuilds. Quietly, patiently, brick by emotional brick. She reinvents herself when others expect her to stay shattered. And with every rebuild, she becomes stronger. She doesn't rush the process, she respects it. She understands that real transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes inner work, deep work, the kind most people avoid. While others run from discomfort, she leans into it. She doesn't patch her wounds with distractions. She addresses them, she reflects, she evolves. That's why her foundation is unshakable. Not because life spared her, but because she built resilience through every storm. Even in relationships she builds, she brings calm, not chaos, support, not sabotage. She doesn't just love loudly, she loves deeply, with emotional awareness. She knows how to nurture connection, not just consume it. She brings balance, safety, growth, and if that's not returned, she's strong enough to walk away, but never bitter. She's too focused on building to waste energy breaking down. In her career too, she builds steadily. While others chase applause, she chases impact. She's not obsessed with being seen, she's obsessed with creating something real. Her work, her vision, her values, they align. That alignment is rare, it's powerful, and it draws in opportunity. People notice her not because she demands attention, but because she builds something worth noticing. What truly sets her apart is her belief that nothing is ever wasted. Not time, not pain, not setbacks. Everything adds to her growth. She recycles pain into purpose. She turns breakdowns into breakthroughs. Where others see an ending, she sees a blueprint. And that mindset, that's unteachable, that's earned. She may not always move fast, but she always moves forward. She may not always be praised, but she always produces. She may not always be celebrated, but she always creates. She's not loud about her power, but it's in everything she builds. And in the end, the woman who builds always stands taller than the one who breaks. She protects her energy like it's gold. An emotionally intelligent woman knows that her energy is sacred. It's not something to be given out freely to everyone who demands it. She has learned, sometimes the hard way, that not everyone deserves access to her time, her emotions, or her presence. And so, she guards her peace with quiet strength. She doesn't attend every argument she's invited to. She doesn't explain herself endlessly to people committed to misunderstanding her. She doesn't pour endlessly into those who only take. She has boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect what she's spent years building inside herself: balance, clarity, and self-respect. This woman understands that not every situation requires a response. Not every conflict deserves her energy. Not every invitation needs a yes. She has mastered the art of saying no, not with cruelty, but with conviction. Her no is calm, it's rooted, it's final, because she knows that every yes to the wrong thing is a no to her own well-being. She reads energy the way others read headlines. She can sense when a space is off, when a person is masking intentions, or when her spirit starts to feel heavy for no clear reason. That's emotional intelligence. She doesn't ignore those signs anymore. She trusts her gut. She leaves rooms that feel wrong. She doesn't second-guess the voice inside her that says, "This isn't for you." People may call her distant. They may say she's changed. And maybe she has. But that change was survival. That change was growth. She's no longer willing to give her best to people who offer her their bare minimum. She's no longer tolerating what drains her. She's not here to be liked. She's here to be aligned. She chooses silence over chaos, solitude over forced company. She's okay being alone because she's learned that peace is better than pretending. And in that silence, she recharges, she regains clarity, she strengthens her spirit so that when she does show up in the world, she's not running on empty, she's glowing from within. Her circle is smaller now, but it's richer. She surrounds herself with people who inspire her, challenge her to grow, and support her without trying to control her. She's not interested in shallow connections or surface-level friendships. She wants depth, truth, realness. Anything less just doesn't move her anymore. And the most powerful part? She doesn't apologize for this. She doesn't feel guilty for choosing herself. She doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She doesn't dim her light to be accepted. She knows who she is. She knows what she needs. And she refuses to settle for anything that disrupts her peace. Because when you've worked this hard to build inner calm, you don't let anyone come in and wreck it. She protects her energy, because that energy is her power. She evolves without permission. The emotionally intelligent woman doesn't ask the world for approval before she grows. She doesn't wait for permission to change. When it's time to evolve, she evolves, silently, boldly, unapologetically, because her growth is not a performance. It's a commitment she's made to herself. She doesn't fear becoming too much for people who preferred her smaller. She doesn't water herself down just to stay familiar. She knows that emotional intelligence isn't just about managing emotions. It's about mastering transitions. She allows herself to outgrow environments, habits, relationships, and even parts of herself that no longer align with who she's becoming. Evolution, for her, is constant. It's intentional. She reflects regularly. What am I feeling? What am I avoiding? What have I been tolerating that I shouldn't? And based on those answers, she adjusts. She sets new boundaries. She embraces new goals. She drops the roles she once played for the sake of acceptance. She no longer fears being misunderstood. She's not living her life to be easily explained. She's living it to be deeply fulfilled. If that means being less available to people who only valued the older version of her, so be it. If that means walking alone for a while to walk forward, she welcomes the solitude. Because she knows that real growth often looks like isolation before it looks like expansion. What's extraordinary about this woman is that she doesn't evolve with drama. She doesn't announce every change on a stage. She doesn't need applause. She lets her actions speak. She lets her energy shift. And those who notice, notice. Those who don't were never truly watching in the first place. Her growth is sacred. It's earned. It's layered in experience, reflection, and inner work. She's not chasing trends. She's chasing alignment. She's not obsessed with looking transformed. Others? He's focused on being transformed. She'd rather have internal peace than external praise, and that's what makes her magnetic. People often say, "You've changed," and she smiles, because that's the point. She didn't come this far to remain the same. She didn't survive the chaos, the pain, the lessons, just to go backwards. She wears her evolution like armor, not to defend herself, but to remind herself of how far she's come. She's no longer the woman who tolerated mistreatment, who dimmed her light, who questioned her worth. She's stepped into the version of herself that trusts, that believes, that knows her value, knows her direction, knows her power. She doesn't need everyone to understand her journey. She just needs to keep walking it, because in the end, the emotionally intelligent woman doesn't evolve to impress. She evolves to rise, and rise she always does. Why emotionally intelligent women always win in the end? She didn't win because she was the loudest. She didn't win because she was ruthless. She won because she knew herself. She mastered her emotions. She learned when to speak and when to stay silent. In a world that glorifies chaos and quick results, emotionally intelligent women choose something different. They choose depth. They choose clarity. They choose peace. While others seek attention, she seeks alignment. While others chase validation, she builds self-respect. And that's what sets her apart. Not just what she does, but how she does it. She wins because she's self-aware. She doesn't pretend to be someone she's not just to fit in. She doesn't betray her values to be accepted. She understands who she is, and that foundation cannot be shaken by rejection, criticism, or comparison. People may try to label her as too emotional or too soft, but what they don't realize is her softness is a sign of strength. Her emotional control is not a lack of feeling, but a sign of mastery. The emotionally intelligent woman sees through people, through situations, through noise. She doesn't waste her energy proving her worth. She doesn't cling to people who take her for granted. She doesn't force herself into spaces where her spirit doesn't belong. She simply walks away, gracefully, and when she walks, she doesn't return. Her intelligence isn't just mental. It's emotional, spiritual, relational. She knows how to listen, how to reflect, how to grow. She's learned from heartbreak, risen from rock bottom, and healed from things that once shattered her. But she never became cold. She never stopped believing in love, in purpose, in herself. That's rare. That's power. She's not in a race with anyone else. Her timeline is her own. Her journey is personal. She's not here to impress the world. She's here to impact it. And she does by being authentic, by showing up with presence, by leading with empathy, by protecting her peace at all costs. And the best part? Her victory is often quiet. You won't always see it on display. You won't hear her boast, but you'll feel it. In how she carries herself, in how she speaks, in the calm in her eyes, in the way she walks into a room, not to dominate, but to inspire. She wins in her relationships because she knows how to give love without losing herself. She wins in her career because she brings both competence and compassion. She wins in life because she doesn't just survive, she evolves. Emotionally intelligent women may not always get the spotlight, but they always get the last word through their growth, their wisdom, and their peace. So if you are one of these women, never doubt your path. And if you're still becoming her, keep going. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more women like you, the kind who rise quietly, love deeply, and lead with grace. Because in the end, that's the woman who truly wins every single time.